Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Uh, Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Vaishali, ma'am, welcome.
Thank you.
Can we start the session?
Yeah. So already I think participants are there in the session.
Yeah,
They are already there. Okay.
yeah, ma'am.
I'll be just sharing the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah. Is my presentation visible?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So basically today we are going to have a brief overview of entity relationship model. First of all, as you have already studied and you know what is the data. Data is basically the known facts that can be recorded, and database, it is a collection of the related data, and DBMS, it is a collection of that particular interrelated data and set of programs to access those data. For example, data, suppose your marks entered somewhere in an Excel sheet. So that becomes the data. And database is the student of all the students of the entire class will form a database. And then comes the role of DBMS to access those interrelated data through some data models, which we are going to discuss today. And you know, the applications everywhere, database has its applications, be it banking, airlines, or universities, sales, everywhere. So I'll just quickly switch on to the today's topic, where we are going to discuss about various data models. So data model, basically it is a tool for describing the data relationships, data semantics. And first of all, today we are going to study about ER models. So first thing that comes to our mind is the database. How can we see the database? How can we view? So for viewing the database, there are some objects which are created. First of all, there is an entity which is an object of the real world that is distinguishable from the another objects. Means, for example, if we talk about the university database and their student becomes an entity, we call student an entity because it is an object that actually existing in the real world. And then faculty can become an entity. The course for which the student is opting can act as an entity. So these all are the entities. And then comes the attribute. Attribute is defined by the set of values called domain. For example, once a student has become an entity, now we know that student is an entity. Okay, now the attributes that describe the student are student name, it can be student ID, it can be student mobile number, mail ID, or it can be the address of the student. So these becomes the attributes, basically the set of values that defines the entity. Okay. So next come the entity set, which is a set of entities of the similar type that share the same properties. Example, all the students in the university will share the same properties. Same way they would be stored in the database. We'll understand these concepts through various examples also. For example, we have an entity set as customer and loan, and we have customer ID, customer name, customer street, customer city. Okay, so in this is the customer entity where we are storing the information about the customer, which can be ID, name, address, and then another entity, for example, we have taken as loan, and where we are storing the loan number. It can be loan number or it can be the amount, right? So these are the two different entities with their attributes. So all these customer ID, as I told you, these will become the attributes because they are defining the entity customer. Next, there are various types of attributes. First of all, simple attribute we'll talk about. Simple attribute, let's say, for example, phone number. Now I cannot break your phone number. So the values which cannot be divided further are known as simple attributes. Okay. For example, Aadhaar number. We cannot divide the Aadhaar number. Then next one is composite attribute. Composite attributes, they are made of one or more than simple attributes. We'll see this through an example. Again, a student have the first name and the last name. We can break it. So these first name, a student first name and the last name, these two will form the composite attribute. Then we have derived attributes. For example, let's say in a database you are entering the date of birth, then age can be automatically derived from date of birth. You need not have to enter the age again. So basically age becomes the derived attribute from date of birth. Okay, so they actually do not exist in the physical database anywhere, but yes, their values can be derived from the other attributes which are present in the database. Next, we have the single value attribute. For example, the student ID, that is just a single value. It cannot contain any other value. Or I can say Aadhaar number, it will always have a single value. So this is the single value attribute. And multi-value attributes means an attribute which can have more than one value. For example, phone number. Phone number, a person can have two phone numbers also. Okay, or two email IDs. So these will be called as multi-valued attributes. So for example, the name which is being divided into first name, middle name, last name. So this forms the composite attributes. And below that, if you will check the address we have divided, the address has the attributes as street, city, state, postal code. Then street, further we have divided into street number, street name, or more specifically apartment number. So these are called as the component attributes. Next, again we'll see, don't worry, we are going to study all these attributes through various examples. Then comes the relationship. Suppose we have two entities. One is the student and the another is the faculty. Okay, so the relationship between those two entities, there should be the relationship between those two entities if they are existing in the database. ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता कि entity के बीच में relationship ना हो. So there must exist some relationship between the two. For example, teachers teaches student. So this becomes the relationship between the faculty and the student. Okay, and relationship set. A set of relationships similar type is called a relationship set, and these are also known as descriptive attributes. Now, for example, here you will see the entities and the relationship, how they are represented. Entities represented by a rectangle, box and attribute in an oval shape, and then relationship is represented by a diamond. These are the specifications which we should know, because this is how we are going to represent an ER diagram everywhere. So these are the standard things defined for the ER model. Now, for example, we'll see the employee entity. Any employee working in an industry, as suppose for this particular thing, employee becomes an entity because this is a distinguishable object in the real world, which exists in the real world. And attributes that will define employee would be name, address, birth date, salary. You can add definitely more, whichever you want, but these will form the attributes of the employee. And basically, these would be the attributes of all the employees working in a particular industry. Generally, we keep the attributes same for the entire set of the entity. Another example which we have is, for example, we have taken a banking example where we have a customer as an entity and account as an entity. Okay, now customer deposits in the account is one relationship, although yes, we know that customer withdraws also from the account, so both ways we can use it. Okay, and here the customer has the attributes as customer ID, name, street, city, and account has the attributes as account number or the balance. Okay, and this depositor becomes the relationship between the two entities, which are customer and the account. Then we have a relationship set, an attribute. For instance, the depositor relationship set between entity sets and the customer and account may have the attribute access date. Basically, these relationships Now here, as we can see that customer and account are the two entities and the relationship is depositor. The depositor can also have an attribute. Like when a customer deposits some amount in the account, so deposit date can be captured as an attribute of this depositor relationship. Or if it is a withdrawal kind of relationship, then again the withdrawal date can be stored as an attribute of that particular relationship. So entity also has the attributes and relationship also has the attribute. So this is how we have represented excess date. We have given as the attribute, and excess date will serve as both for the depositor also and for the withdrawal also. We can use the same attribute. But yes, the relationship should be clearly specified that whether the customer is depositor is withdrawing. Then we have relationship sets which may involve two or more entity sets. That means kind of ternary relationship. So here we'll see that works on relationship is linked to employee entity, branch entity, and job entity. Employee works on and job defines the particular type of responsibility given to that particular employee, and works on branch. Branch means the location of the employee where he is working. So the attributes which we have is, for the employee, we have employee ID, name, street, and city. And then for the branch, we can store as branch name, branch city, and assets. Then for the job, we have title or level. Anything can be specified here. So basically, you will see that one relationship is linked to three entities. It can be more also. Then we have mapping cardinalities. That means how the entity sets a number of entity sets that participate in a relationship set. Whether all, like for example, if I take all the employees will participate in this particular example for the branch activity or job activity, or only few employees will participate. So basically it will represent the number of participation. Okay. For example, one more example we can take here. Student is enrolled in a course. Naturally, all the students are not enrolled in that particular course if we are talking about in BTech program. So we will specify a number. Okay. And vice versa also. A student can take only one course, cannot take multiple courses. So this thing also we need to keep in mind. So both side participation would be clear based on that. We'll do this with various examples. So first of all, the cardinality, following types of cardinalities are there. First one is one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. In this one-to-one, that means A is an entity, B is an entity. Okay, so A is related to B, one-to-one, first one, and means a student is enrolled in, one student is enrolled in one course only. Okay, so this is one-to-one relationship, or a student is currently working on one project only. Okay, the next we can have the another example, one to many. That means A1 is associated with B1 also and B2 also. That means one student is working on multiple projects. Let's say if this A is a student entity and B is representing the project entity. So from this we can say that the student is working on one student but multiple projects. So this can be one to many. This is first one is one to one example, and the second one is one to many example. Next we have many students are working on one project. Okay, if A is the student and B represent your project, and this is the example that A1 and A2 both are related to B1. So that means multiple students are working on single project. Okay, so many to one. The relationship would be many to one. And next one is A1 is related to B1 also and B2 also. Same way B1 is related to A2 also and it is related to A1 also. So that means multiple students working on multiple projects at the same time. So the relationship is many to many. Now one more example we'll see. The customer name, the customer entity, and we have described one attribute from the customer entity, which is the name, and then we have account numbers and access dates, okay, for the account entity. So now one customer, this what kind of mapping cardinality would it be? Here the one customer can have multiple accounts, but can it be possible that multiple accounts are related to multiple persons? No. Okay, so the cardinality here would be one to many. One person can have multiple accounts. Definitely, we also have multiple accounts in a bank, so that can be possible. But it cannot be possible that one account is linked to multiple persons, unless it's a joint account or special cases. But generally, the database, when we are designing, so we need to keep that constraint that one account cannot be linked to the multiple persons unless and until they are family members or some joint account is open. So, and if we see the relationship from customer to account is one to many, and from account to customer, this would be many accounts are linked to one customer. So that becomes many to one relationship. So as I already told you that when we talk about ER diagrams, the rectangles would represent the entity sets, diamond would represent the relationship set, and links would be used, like we'll draw a line to connect the entities to relationships, and then ellipse would represent the attribute. And double ellipse, this is important. If double line as double ellipse is shown, then that would represent the multi-valued attribute. And dashed will show the derived attribute. Multi-valued attribute, like if in a database we are maintaining, suppose, two different phone numbers for a particular student. So, or for a particular customer. So, when we are maintaining more than one value, so that particular attribute we are going to show by double ellipse. Then next comes the dashed ellipse, which will denote the derived attribute. For example, the date of age can be derived from the date of birth. Okay, so that attribute can be shown as the derived attribute by showing the dashed ellipse. Then underline indicate the primary key attribute. I'll come on to all the types of keys. First of all, let's see an example of the attribute. In this, the name, first name, middle name, last name, this all becomes the composite attributes. Then this phone number, if you will see, shown by the double ellipse, is a multi-valued attribute, and one more attribute we have is the derived attribute, which is age. So basically age, physically it is not existing in the database, but yes, its value can be derived from the date of birth. So that is why it is known as the derived attribute, and date of birth actually physically exists in the database. And then we have divided the street into further street number, street name, apartment number. So if we divide the attribute further, then it forms the component attributes. And here customer ID is the primary key, which is underlined. I'll explain you the definition of primary key. Now we'll see one more example. This is the customer entity and the product entity. And for the customer, we have stored the attributes like its name, surname, email address, telephone number, and postal address. Now we have assumed that email address would be unique of every customer. So email address is made as the primary key. Telephone number is again the multi-valued attribute, and postal address is divided into further street address, city, zip code, and country. Likewise, for the product entity, we have name, price, and product ID. Product ID is unique for all the products. So this becomes the primary key of the product. So now we have joined both these entities, customer and the product entity, through a relationship. Customer buys product. Buys becomes the relationship between the customer and the product. And here buys also have its own attribute, the number and the timestamp. Maybe number can represent how many products is he buying. Okay. And timestamp is that at what time is he buying, or once he has selected it, or once the customer has kept it in the cart, then a timestamp would be associated with it, because for that particular time only it will remain in the cart. So this is how we can like represent the relationship between the two entities along with the attributes. And next one is the role. Role specifies the relationship and the relationship with the entity more clearly. Basically, roles specify how the entities interact via the relationship set. So, in the ER diagrams, to make it more clear, to make it more understandable, we usually write the type of role for between the, which exists between the entity and the relationship set. For example, in this we have defined the two roles, manager and worker. Okay, so these are the two roles for the employee. Like it works for particular department, so at that time it becomes a worker, and for some departments it can act as a manager also, because managers are also part of the employee set, entity set only. So roles are indicated by labeling the lines that connect diamond to the rectangle. Here we can label it. But yes, as I told you, these role labels are optional. If we want, we can use it to better clarify the semantics of the relationship. Next we have how do we represent these. We already spoke about one-to-one relationship, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. But how do we represent them in the ER diagram? So it is represented by a directed line or a directed line. Your directed line from the entity relationship, or an undirected line from the between the relationship set and the entity set. So directed line would signify one, and undirected line would signify many. This is the most important convention which we need to remember. Usually we get confused in this. So please remember that directed line would signify one and undirected line would represent many. For example, in this, a customer is associated with at most one loan, okay, via the relationship borrower. If you will see the relationship with the borrower, that means the customer, the other side, it is an undirected line. So customer is related to the loan via the relationship borrower, and loan is associated with at the most one customer, okay, via borrower. We'll see more examples. In one-to-many relationship, if you will see here one-to, at the loan side, you will see one. This is okay. So one-to-many relationship with at the most one customer via borrower. That means only one customer can have only one loan. Yes. So we have restricted that a loan can be associated to only one customer at the most. It cannot be linked to one loan, cannot be linked to many customers. Okay. Suppose a customer has taken a loan of 10 lakhs. We cannot relate that particular loan to multiple customers. the liability is of only that particular customer who has actually taken the loan or who has actually borrowed it from the bank. Then we have many-to-one relationship. Now in this, a loan is associated with several customers via borrower. A customer is associated with at the most one loan via borrower. That means a customer can have maximum one loan. Initially, in the previous example, we had one loan per one customer. At the most, one customer is associated. Okay, but a customer is associated with several loans. Customer can have one customer has applied for the NRP loan, non-residential property loan. Then the same customer has applied for another loan from the bank. So multiple customers were linked, but one particular loan is linked to only one customer. But in this, if you will see that a customer is associated with at the most one loan only via borrower because of the signs which are shown here. Then we have many-to-many relationship. Here there are no directed lines, so that means both the sides the relationship becomes many-to-many. A customer can have many loans, and a loan is also many loans can be associated with several customers via the relationship borrower. Next thing which comes in, the total participation and the partial participation. If there are any queries or any doubts, you may write in the chat box also. Okay, so next we have participation. Two kind of participation is there. Either entity participates totally, entity sets with the relationship set, or the partial participation. That means some entities may not participate in the relationship set. For example, in this, and the total participation is indicated by the double line and partial is indicated by a single line. For example, when a loan number or amount is there in the entity of loan, that means it is for sure that that particular loan is linked to some customer. So that means the participation of the loan entity is total, full participation. And in case of customer can, it is not necessary that each and every customer in the bank is taking loan from the bank. So that is why the participation of the customer is partial, because few entities or some entities are only participating. It is not necessary that all the entities are taking loan from the bank. All the customers are taking loan. Okay. So that is the difference between the total participation and partial participation. We just need to remember the lines whenever we are representing it in the ER diagram. Now, next comes the keys. We have various keys. I'm continuously talking about the primary key. So we have other keys also: super key, candidate key, primary key, alternate key, and foreign key. A super key of an entity set is a set of one or more attributes whose value uniquely determine each entity. Okay, basically an entity set is given to you and the attributes. From various attributes, we are going to define the keys. Okay, so super key will form a set such that every set uniquely determines the entity. Then we have candidate key, a minimal super key which can be selected, which describes which uniquely determines each entity is called the candidate key. We'll understand through various examples, and we must remember that the candidate key does not contain, it must contain unique values. It does not contain It cannot contain null values. It contains the minimum number of fields to ensure the uniqueness. ऐसा नहीं है कि हमें सारा का सारा जो सुपर की का सेट मिला है, we'll call it as the candidate key. We need to select the minimum number of fields to ensure the uniqueness, and then those selected keys should uniquely identify each record in the table. Then primary key is one of the candidate keys chosen by the database designer. Basically, from the set of candidate keys, we are going to choose the primary key, and it would be chosen by the, like, it would be designer, database designer specific, and the remaining keys would be termed as the alternate key. The one which you select from the candidate key will become the primary key, and the remaining keys would be called as the alternate key. Okay, then last one, we have a foreign key. Basically, foreign key is required when we need to link the data between the two tables. Okay, then we are how we will link them. The question comes. So generally, we would link them through a foreign key, and that foreign key would act as a primary key in the other table. Maybe in the current table, for example, table A and table B, we need to provide a link between these two tables. Okay, so whenever, like, you will select this attribute from table A, you have selected as the foreign key, but you need to keep this thing in mind that whichever attribute you select, that attribute should be the foreign key in the other table. Then only those two tables can be linked. Now we'll see the examples. First of all, for example, we have a table. Book is the table or an entity, and we have the attributes as book ID, book name, and author. So in this table, we can have now super keys kya hongi isme? Book ID is, with the help of book ID, can you identify any entry in the table if you have the book ID? Yes. So book ID becomes the super key, one super key. Again, we'll form multiple combinations. Book ID and book name, if I combine, again I can find out the locate any entry in the table using the book ID and book name. I can also combine book ID and author. Okay, I can take all these things, book ID, book name, and author. All three attributes I can use to identify any entry from the table book. Okay. Or else, if I combine, if suppose I don't take book ID, and if I combine book name and author, then also I'll be able to find any entry. Okay, so this becomes the super key. These all are the super keys. Now from this, we need to identify the candidate key. So the property of the candidate key is that we need to choose the minimal out of all, which can uniquely determine the entry in the particular entity. Okay, so in this, the book ID alone I can choose to identify the complete entity, and also the another candidate key which I have chosen with the help of book name and author. Because listen, if I select book ID and book name both, then book name doesn't make any sense, because if I have the book ID also, then also I can find the entry. So book ID alone is enough to find any entry in the table book. If suppose another which I need to select is, if I don't have the book ID, then in that case I should have the book name and the author name. I just cannot search it with the book name, because maybe it can have multiple books are there, or with the same name. Like for the DBMS only, we have so many books with the same name. So we need to have the combination of author also with that, with the book name. Then only we can identify the particular entry. Or we cannot identify only with the author name also, because one author has written, maybe he has written multiple books. So you cannot find out a particular entry only with the author name. You need a combination of book name and author. So now we have two keys, book ID and book name and author. These two represent the candidate keys. Now out of these, can we select the primary key, which uniquely identify the entity in the entity set? So yes, here the book ID becomes the primary key. And rest of the keys, like the book name and author, this becomes the alternate key. Whenever we want to use, we can use them as the alternate key. But yes, the primary key would be the book ID, because alone with book ID, you can find out any entry from the table. Okay, one more example we are going to see. Suppose in a student table, we have student ID, first name, last name, and course ID. And we need to identify the candidate keys. Here the candidate keys become student ID, so definitely candidate key hoga hi. Then next the candidate key would become first name and last name combined. You cannot only search with the first name, or you cannot select with the course ID, because course ID is not unique. Maybe because multiple students are studying in the same course. For example, in this also C002, Jim is also studying, is also enrolled in this course, and this Amanda is also enrolled in this course. So course ID cannot form the candidate key, because alone course ID it is not able to identify any student. We cannot identify any student if with just the course ID. Okay, if I say C002, which student is studying in C002 course ID, so there are multiple students, many students who are studying, who are having this course ID. So either I need to know the student ID, or the combination of first name and last name. So these become the candidate keys. And the primary key would be only the student ID. So the rest of the key would be alternate key. So this here student ID becomes the primary key. Now for the foreign key, if I have the two tables, course table and student table, how can I link the student table with the course table? Foreign key has one property, that whichever attribute you choose as the foreign key, it should act as the primary key in the other table which you are trying to link. So the another table is course. You are trying to link student and the course table. So in the other table, you will see that course ID is the primary key. It is underlined. Because why it is primary key? Because every course name has a unique ID in that particular name. Accounts का अपना एक ID है, computers का अपना ID है, history का अपना एक ID है. So that's a unique in that particular course table. And now if you want to link these two tables, because we need to find out कि student कौन से course में पढ़ रहा है, the name of the course we need to find out. Then what we need to select? We need to link both these tables. And for example, the Jim Black with student ID 2345 is studying in the course ID C002, and C002 we will find out from the another table. The course name is computing. So that means Jim Black is studying in the computing course. So this can be found out. So we need to relate these two tables. So whenever we need to link the tables, we have to use foreign key. One more example we are going to see quickly. One, we have student table in which we have student number, name, phone number, state, country, and age of the student. Now, what can be the candidate key in this, with which you can identify the student number, student entry? So there can be two: student number or student phone. Both they can act as the candidate key. Okay. Then you need to choose one candidate key as the primary key. So for example, if I choose the student number as the primary key, so this becomes the primary key, and the student phone will become the alternate key. Okay. Now one more example. where we have student ID, roll number, first name, last name, and email ID. Look, there are 3 candidate keys in this. Student ID bhi hai, roll number is also there, and the email is also there. With any of the 3, you can uniquely identify the entire tuple. So these all 3 will become the candidate keys, but out of all these 3, you need to choose one as the primary key. So if suppose I choose student ID as the primary key, then roll number and email will become the alternate keys. One more example where we have employee and the various attributes of the employees, where we have employee ID, name, address, passport number, license number, and SSN number. Now, suppose I have identified the employee ID as the primary key, because candidate keys we have many. Like candidate keys, we can take employee ID. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the employee ID as the primary key, and the candidate keys, although we have the employee ID also can be used as the, it can also represent the candidate key. Passport number can also be unique, license number, SSN number. So all these are unique. Out of these, I have selected employee ID as the primary key. So all these rest will become the alternate keys. And now again, one example of foreign keys we are going to study. Suppose we have 2 tables, employee and the department, and we need to find out the department name in which the employee is working. Because listen, in one table we cannot capture all the entries. So usually we link the 2 tables, we'll keep the separate tables according to the entities and their attributes, and we are going to link them using the foreign key. So here I can choose the department ID as the foreign key, because when linking employee and the department tables, the department ID is the foreign key in the department table. So department ID will act as the foreign key. Then next concept which is important is weak entity sets. First of all, I'll take a quick review, then we will start with this weak entity sets. What all we have studied is the entity, attributes, and relationship. Okay. Then comes the types of attributes. We now know multi-valued attributes, derived attributes, and we can represent them. Okay. Then the relationship, cardinalities among various entity sets, how they are related to them, one to one, one to many to one, and many to many. Okay. So these are the cardinalities which we discussed. We need to remember this. Directed line and undirected line is used for mapping the cardinalities. And then we have various roles which are optional, which can be specified on the lines, links, which connect the entity to the relationship. And remember, relationship can also have attributes. Okay. Then one important thing which we studied was total participation and partial participation, the participation of entity in the relationship set. So if it is total, then it is represented by the double line. If it is partial, then it is represented by the single line. Then various keys, and we have understood through various examples, and the keys are super key, candidate key, primary key, alternate key, and foreign key. These terms we would be constantly using in the database. Now I'll come on to the weak entity sets. Okay, so what are weak entity sets? And अभी तक हमने जो भी पढ़ा है, every time the entity set have a primary key. What if suppose an entity set does not have a primary key? So that particular set is referred to as the weak entity set. So how then the weak entity set will depend on what? The existence of the weak entity set will depend on the identifying set, the one which is identifying, or I can say to the strong entity set to which it is linked. Okay, so the primary key, since the weak entity set does not have its own primary key, so the primary key of the weak entity set would be equal to discriminator. Discriminator is a thing, it is a kind of partial key. It is a set of the attributes that distinguishes among all the entities of the weak entity set. Okay. उस पर्टिकुलर एंटिटी सेट में वो जो डिस्टिंग्विश कर रही है बाकी एट्रीब्यूट से, दैट वुड बी टर्म्ड एज डिस्क्रिमिनेटर प्लस द प्राइमरी की ऑफ द स्ट्रॉन्ग एंटिटी सेट. So the combination of these two attributes will form the primary key of the weak entity set. Let's see through an example. We depict a weak entity set. First of all, how do we represent them in case of ER diagrams? So this is represented by the double rectangle. You remember the initially also double ellipse we have used to represent the multi-valued attribute. Okay, and here we are using, so don't get confused, that was an ellipse double for the multi-valued attribute, and here we have the rectangle, double rectangle. Okay, this would represent the weak entity set. Okay, now the weak entity set, in this particular example we have two entities, loan and payment, and they both are linked through the loan payment relationship. This is the relationship. Okay, and now we have loan number and amount. So loan number becomes the primary key of this loan entity, because this is a unique number with which you can identify the loan. Now the payment, if you need to find out which payment is associated with which loan, so you cannot just simply identify it with payment number. You need to interlink between, you need to link these two tables. And since you can notice that there is no primary key. So if you don't have the primary key, then how do you link these two tables? Okay, because whenever you link the two tables, two entities, the attribute which you select in the primary table should be the primary key of the another table. But since it's a weak entity set, it does not have an attribute, it does not have a primary key. So what will you do in this case? You need to find out the combination which can be used as the primary key of the weak entity set. Okay, so in this example, payment number, in this particular payment table, it uniquely identifies this payment table. Okay, with payment number, इस particular table के लिए तो ये unique है, but you cannot merge these two tables. So this payment number is the discriminator. Now the primary key for the payment becomes, for the weak entity set becomes the discriminator plus the primary key of the entity set to which it is linked. So it is linked to the loan, and you have the loan number as the primary key. So the combination of loan number and the payment number becomes the primary key of the weak entity set payment. Okay, if suppose we change this ER diagram, अगर हमने loan number भी इसका attribute बना दिया होता payment का, so in that case you can link these two tables with the loan number, and the payment number and the payment tuple will not be a weak entity set in that particular case. It will become the strong entity set, because then it will have a loan number as its own primary key, and you can link these two tables through the loan number. Okay. But if it is not explicitly stored, then it will act the payment will act as the weak entity set only. See one more example. We have two tables, account and transaction. Okay. Account has the attributes as number and the balance. Okay. When any customer makes a transaction and you need to find out that which the transaction was of how much amount from a particular account number. So you need to link these two tables, account and the transaction. But in transaction, you have only transaction number and the amount. So now how to link these two tables? That means the transaction does not have the primary key. The transaction number is unique only to this particular entity, which is transaction set. So this transaction, if we need to choose the discriminator among transaction number and amount, definitely we are going to choose transaction number only. Why? Because same amount of transaction can be made multiple times. So definitely amount to unique hai. It cannot be chosen as the discriminator. So the other attribute which we are left with is transaction. So you can choose the transaction as the discriminator. Okay. And so for the weak entity set transaction, trans number becomes the discriminator, and then we have the account, okay, to which it is linked, which is a strong entity set. And the primary key of that particular entity set is the number. Number can be account number, okay, so which is unique. So when we link the account number and the transaction, then definitely they will form the primary key of the weak entity set, which becomes the account number and transaction. And now if we have the account number and transaction number, then definitely we can trace the amount of transaction made from that particular account number. So if any query is raised for that particular account by a customer, then by linking these two entity sets through account number and transaction number, you can find out how much transaction happened from this particular account number. So this is how you're going to identify the weak entity sets, because they don't have the primary key. But anytime the weak entity set can be converted to the strong entity set by explicitly storing the primary key to which it is linked. The primary key of that entity set can be explicitly stored to the weak entity set. Then it will be again, then it will change to strong entity set. Okay. So I quickly have a review, and then so we have studied till here weak entity sets. Now again, what is an entity? It is a distinguishable object in the real world. Attributes that define the entity. Okay, values, basically student, तो उसकी values हो गई student ID, student name, student last name and address. So these form the attributes. Then relationship. When you link two entities, then you need to specify the relationship between those two entities. So that is the relationship represented by the diamond. Then we have the constraints, which are mapping cardinalities, one to one, one to many to one, and many to many. And we have participation constraints, the total participation of an entity to a relationship, or is it is a partial participation. And then various types of keys. Super key, candidate key, primary key, alternate key, foreign key. Then we have seen various ER diagrams and the ways of representing entities represented in a rectangle, attribute ellipse, and relationship in a diamond. Then mapping constraints, cardinalities, directed line and undirected line for one and many respectively. Then participation total. Double line would represent the total participation of an entity set, and partial single line would represent the partial participation. Then keys for the primary key, the attribute is underlined, then it becomes the primary key of an entity. So these are the various representation of the ER diagrams. Then we have discussed the weak entity sets, which are shown by the double rectangle. Okay, and they do not have their own primary key. Their primary key is defined through the discriminator, and the other set to which it is dependent, the primary key of the strong entity set, and the discriminator forms the primary key of the weak entity set. Then tomorrow we'll be covering the extended ER features, which is specialization, generalization, and aggregation, and then reduction of an ER schema to tables. Now I'm just giving you a link for the MCQs. You can try solving that. Oh, I've got many, I think, chat messages. So I'll quickly reply to these messages. One question has asked, one student has asked me what type of questions are asked from these topic and placement. Look, while placement, the concept must be clear. Your fundamental should be very much clear. Okay. It is not about what question. They'll not ask you what is primary key or what is foreign key. They are not going to ask you this way. But yes, you need to develop the competencies, skill competencies. Gone is the era when you will when you will just focus on the job and then you will develop the skills. This is not the era. The era is you need to first develop the skills and then find the job matching to your skills. Okay. Then another question. Acha, sorry, I haven't seen the previous example. Book name and book author is also a candidate key. Ishita has asked me this question. Book name and book author is also a candidate key. Yes, because with the help of book name and book author, also you can identify a particular tuple in that particular table. You need not necessarily to have book ID. So yes, book name and book author is also a primary key. I'll just reply. Yes. Okay. Then few questions I'm not able to see. They have messaged something but not able to see. Okay. Okay, so now I am just sending you this link. Please try solving this MCQ. Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's a very knowledgeable session for us, for our students. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, and students are asking me to share the PDF also. So I have uploaded it here, like in the files,
Okay.
slides also. So can they download from here?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. You can share with your Google Drive link with us.
No, in this webinar jam, there is an option of files where I have uploaded it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So they can download from there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. I think share this PDF. That's what probably most of these questions are this only. ठीक है. Okay.
Now we meet tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Participants, be on time in the next session. That is 2:15 p.m. Okay. Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you, ma'am, again.
Thank you.